Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's Ricochet for Vibe 105, and I'm sitting down with 19 Keys, widely popular for his show, Higher Level Conversations. 19 Keys, it's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Good to be here, brother. I appreciate y'all having me.
You definitely have opened my mind to what I thought was and what would be or should be of the world. So first of all, let me say thank you for not only opening my eyes and ears, but everybody else that tunes into your show. For those who are not familiar with 19 Keys, can you let everybody know what you're about and just give somebody just a brief history of yourself?
Yeah, I'm originally from Oakland, California. I'm a thought leader, so for me that means teaching people the right way of thinking. Right. And I'm an analyst and an observer, so I like to be a futurist with my predictions and the things that I see, and specifically trying to educate people on the changing trends, right, about social climate and culture, right, enlightenment. And then of course we have our show, High Level Conversations, which really allowed me as a polymath, somebody who's interested in multiple fields and subjects, have conversations with experts and thought leaders and influencers and people all around the world. And it's more so about shifting the conversation to something more high level, because most of the things in mainstream culture are low level.
Right. I feel that we've kind of been trained to be distracted by other things. And you talk a lot about spiritual awakening. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about that and the definition of that.
Yeah, well, spiritual awakening can really take on a personal definition depending on each person, because each person's spiritual awakening can look different. Right. But it's really having an awakening to the reality of one's true self. Right? There's a lot of things that we may have titles, we may have jobs, we may have things that we do, but that's not who we are. Right? And so, detaching from that ego and learning your own spirit, right? And having a spiritual consciousness is key, right? Because most people operate from an egotistical place, right? Their ambitions, but not really their inspirations. Right. Right? And so having that spiritual awakening happens when somebody goes on that intentional journey of self-discovery.
Right. And what does that journey consist of, in your opinion?
Well, it depends on where you at in life. Some people's spiritual journey is a journey of mindfulness. Right. You understand me? Like really detaching from the world and finding out, living a life that's in accordance to your core values. Right. Right. And a lot of people, if you ask them their top 5 rapper, they can say it fast, right? You ask them their top 5 core values and they go stutter. Right. A person that's living in accordance to their spiritual journey, they have those 5 core values always at the forefront. So they're not doing anything that's going against that. Whether it's respect, whether it's loyalty, whether it's family or love or truth, right? They're living in accordance to their core values.
Right. I tune into your show a lot, and there's a lot of reoccurring subjects. AI being one of them. And there's a lot of talk about AI these days, the benefits, possibly the downside and negative effects of AI. Most recently, it was announced today that Elon Musk and other tech giants are asking or calling for a pause of AI development. What is your take on AI, and specifically the benefits and the cons? There's a lot of talk about, recreating, and this might be a far-fetched, but recreating Terminator, the movie, where AI eventually takes us over. What's your stance on that?
I mean, it's a very real possibility, specifically based on, there's a thing called tech bias, right? So the tech emulates the builder, or it takes on the biases of whoever created that technology, right? So if we look at, who runs the world today, human beings can say whether we like it or not, right? And then the people who run the world are the ones who are at the forefront of this technological shift, right? So that means that the way that they run the world now will just be, on steroids, and they have more technology and more ways to control society, right? And so this is what people are afraid of. AI, right now is so big because of OpenAI with ChatGPT, right? And they had, of course, the fastest growth of users than any other app in history, right? And partly it's not just because of, they were really good at a rollout, but because this technology has had 50 years of marketing. Right? We've seen it in Terminator, we've seen it in Matrix, we've seen it in all of these different movies, and all of them have something in common, that it ends in some Armageddon, which is known as the singularity. When it reaches to the point where AI, it becomes smarter and more advanced than human beings, right? And so, there's pros in it to where, you can see changes in healthcare, right? Like they utilized AI when they was rolling out the vaccine with Moderna. It was said that it was actually, most people think that it was made, in like 90 days or so, but really it was made in like 2 days utilizing AI. Right? And then you can see to where they now have the ability to cure more of these diseases that's out there. So we should see, drastic shifts. And it's taking a lot of things that were probably only given to the wealthy, and now the average person will have access to it, like personalized healthcare, right? Or personalized education, right? Because you can use AI to customize these things, right? So AI can be used and function for good, but that all depends on who controls AI, right? So the con is that, if it's used just for capitalist endeavors, the same thing, the TV back in the 30s, they were putting subliminal messages in it by the military. Anything that can be used for power by those in power will be used for power, right? So that's the con. So it's about more so if we don't control it, right? And by me, I mean, the broader culture, the people that have the concerns. If you're not at the forefront of controlling it, then yes, AI will be controlling you. And specifically the next generation to come. So we're going into a more transhumanism generation, and people will be like, well, I wouldn't put the chip in me. And you may say that now, but shoot, people getting ass implants, what I'm saying? Breast implants. There's a lot of different things that are accepted. So this may seem far-fetched because this hasn't happened yet, but the way we've accepted every other change that's considered to be artificial in society, I think people are going to accept, connecting technology and humans, which is what Elon Musk proposed
with Neuralink
as his solution towards, the singularity of AI.
And, as you speak, implanting a chip, most of us are already implanted.
Yeah, we already connected.
Global currency is another subject you touch on a lot. Most recently, again, there's news about Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Iran moving away from the US dollar and moving to the Chinese yuan. What's your take on that, and what do you think the implications of something like that could end up being?
I mean, I think the implications are evident. It's a multipolar world where there's not just one, great power in the world, but there's multiple great powers in the world, right? The U.S. has been able to advance and take advantage of a situation ever since World War II, right? And Russia has been wanting that place of becoming a global power. Before that, we had the Great Britain as a global power, right? And so there's always empires that fall, right? And there's empires that rise. And so we're seeing a new world order come into place, right? And who controls the money controls the world, right? So when you start changing the money, that means that there's already a war going on, right? But we're used to hot wars, right? We're seeing, the military-industrial complex to where everybody's shooting and killing each other, but this is a currency war. This is going to be AI, quantum computer wars, right? Because, the U.S. not just going to lay down. You see what they're trying to do and get TikTok out of here. Even though, both countries have been doing the same thing. They said TikTok is not even in China, right? They got ByteDance and some other things. So they banned U.S. apps in U.S., so now trying to ban Chinese apps, right? So this is part of you seeing, the fight to be the global power, right? And so, this is something that has been happening for the last 50 years. Really, it's been happening forever. Nations always fighting each other for power.
Of course.
But if we see the dollar goes down, right, then we're going to see, a surge in assets, because people are going to be trying to figure out where to put your money at so that you can maintain purchasing power, right? So we know that Warren Buffett bought Barrick Gold, right? He makes moves because he can see the future. He probably, they've been using, AI has been used in the finance world more than any other world, right? They say the two industries to advance the most is the porn industry and the finance industry, right? And so we're going to see, now we got OnlyFans, so those are the two conversions right there. But we're going to see different asset classes rise up, and we're going to see a shift in economies, right? And we're going to see a lot of things play out as far as they're speculating that there are only going to be 6 major banks left by the time all these banks start to close down, right? And some people say that this is perhaps the government's doing so that they can centralize power in these so-called banks that are too big to fail, right? So I would just heed people to pay attention and study about assets and currencies right now. Look at different commodities. Rolexes are up right now. There's a lot of different things that are performing well, and I believe that the conversation around money is going to be getting larger as we go into these new shifts of currencies. They're trying with these, China was already working on rolling out the digital yuan.
Right.
And then America's trying to do the CBDC coin. And so we're headed to a more completely cashless society, which actually gives government more control over the average person. And so, some people are saying it's better to start using cash more.
Right.
Because as you go completely away from cash, those who control the digital currencies can control your life.
Now, how far, there's been a lot of talk, and you see it today, that cash is on its way out. Mm-hmm. How far do you think we are from that actually happening?
Well, how many places you go to that don't accept cash today?
Yeah, right. A lot.
Yeah. Which is a legal tender, right? So legally, they're supposed to accept cash. But this is a preference.
Right.
I even think that if you go in there and you drop your cash, you can leave out. They can't say you stole because it's a legal tender for currency. But everybody wants to go towards digital nowadays, right? And we already live in a credit-based society. It's no real money, right? Real money is like gold and commodities and silver.
And a lot of the major currencies not backed by gold.
It's a social construct that everybody agrees to the illusion that money has value, right? But ever since in America, when it jumped off the gold standard, it has no value. It's backed by the blood, sweat, and tears of the people, right? So every country's true value is their citizens, right? And so that's why governments is about, controlling the mind, governing and controlling the mind, the mint in the mind, the money in the people. And so this is why they continue to put mechanisms in place so that they can have more control over the people, right? And so, inshallah, in the future, or right now actually, because things are progressing so fast, people really need to pay attention and really need to start preparing and setting up not only yourself, but your family, right, with asset plans. Right? What assets that you will hold in the future so that your family has a net worth in the future. Mm-hmm. And the warning I give to people is you may not be interested in digital currencies, you may not be interested in these things, but your children will have to live in a world, right, completely different than the one you live in. So whether you like Bitcoin or not, if that becomes, right, the greatest storehouse of value and overtakes gold, you're gonna be mad. Your children are gonna be like, what were you doing during the Bitcoin age? I've seen 30,000, a million videos where they was telling you to buy Bitcoin. Why didn't you listen, right? And so that's a conversation you have to think about. Same thing with all these other assets as they go. And so the last bit of advice I tell people is to think about becoming global citizens. As the world changes, your ability to do business and have a global business, right, I think is key. Mm-hmm. And so crossing the border from wherever you are right now and doing international business, I think that's the best way to go about it.
Facts. You know what? I can continue having this conversation with you forever. Yes, I urge everybody to tune into your show, High Level Conversations. Yes, you take deep dives into a lot of different topics that got us thinking on a high level. So I appreciate you. Thank you for taking time to chop it up with us.
Thank you for having me here.